Hi, welcome to the Log Cabin. My name is Ellison,
And I'm Hyrule.
and today we are talking about Survivor 48, doing a comprehensive review of it.
And the last time we did the last time we did this was for 45. English is hard.
And I may honestly edit and post that because I've been listening to it. Besides my audio quality being very bad and more so you can barely hear me, I think it's something that'll be interesting to post, especially since I think we have some wild takes in that.
Yeah, I it's been a while. I'm definitely less awkward on recordings than I am or than I was back then, and I don't even remember 90% of what I said in that. So
But so Hyrule has the wiki up. Luckily, we were none of us, neither of us took notes, so we're gonna be based off memory mostly. But we're just gonna talk about the season, episode by episode, player by player, mentioning how people were edited, how they played, uh, characters, all that fun stuff. Afterwards, I'll be posting the player ranking and be doing a character ranking after that. Then, uh, reality TV's on a break till like Big
yeah,
Brother, where probably at end Big Brother we'll talk about that, or Hyrule can talk about that by himself if you'd like. Either or.
I'll definitely be watching it live. So
I've been having so much trouble watching Big Brother live recently since 24 for
it
some reason.
is it is very hard to keep up with, and oh my god, I'm gonna be so burned out this summer because it's gonna be like 4.5 hours a week.
Yeah.
Because of the new Friday stuff. So,
So I guess let's get into it. Starting
and we have
off,
no notes because we're professionally unprofessional.
yes, which I mean, it's so hard to forget this opening because this is probably one of the most unique openings in Survivor history we have had. Being able to see everyone get their, I guess this is just a new thing when they were, but where they get their Zoom calls and are told, "Hey, you're on the cast."
Yeah,
Where most of them are quick. We get to see Mitch, some others. I don't remember who else is in that scene besides Joe.
yeah. The Joe's the biggest one I remember, just purely because of his reaction and how long they left him on screen, which I think might have just been foreshadowing. But
I think it was just leading to what his story is on this season, to where his story on this season really is Joe's a great guy. That is the point of the story of Joe. And
yeah,
now I also think the season also is more of how Joe lost than how Kyle won. But
yeah, that's definitely the best way to describe it because I mean, Kyle definitely has a winner's edit, but it's very much outshadowed by Joe's losing edit,
it's very
which is crazy.
it's very wonky in
Yeah,
that.
it's very unbalanced.
And we'll get to talk about that over this review and how weird the editing this season is, because I think that is the weakest part of this season is the editing. Like the fact a character like Star got as little screen time as she did. The fact Mary was barely on the show after the merge, and Chrissy barely was on the show. Just these the minority was barely focused on here.
Yeah, and I'm sure a big part of it is because of the losing streak that Vula had, but I am kind of surprised even post merge with how little content any Siva person got other than Kyle and Camilla, and mostly Kyle in that sense. Speaking that the winner was on a Siva.
Yeah, which also to me, I think the pre-merge of the season is one of the best we've had in a
Oh yeah, I
while for
agree.
sure. Like so much chaos.
Yeah, as a self-proclaimed failure tribe fan, I lived for that pre-merge.
I'll also mention because I think this is a little bit of an underrated aspect of this whole season is that because this is something I love to discuss during this is that these people saw 46 before going out, so they all see this very messy season. So I wonder if that played into the gameplay of the season or played into like David's thoughts of the meat shields always are taken out early and used as meat shields, and we want to get together, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, which like that could also be why some players like Mitch were constantly like, we need to take action, we need to make a move, and then would just sleep on it and vote with the majority anyway, and then definitely bit the bullet or like dug his own grave there once Final Five rolled around.
Yeah, because I think it's super understated in Survivor how important the season they see before they come to Island is. So, like, with 49 and 50, I believe the seasons they would see last is 47. So, I wonder if that'll impact their gameplay at all.
Actually, I think it would be 48 because 49 has obviously not premiered yet, and I think they're filming 50 next month.
From what I've heard, 49's already been filmed and 50's being filmed right now.
Honestly, that is possible because yeah, because almost at 50. Wow, we're not that far in the future yet. 49 was, I think they started filming the 20th of April, and I think they ended around the 15th
Yeah,
of
because
May.
yeah, cause last for 47, 48, that cycle was filmed later than normal.
Yeah,
But
and it's not like they did the good old Cambodia Korong thing and filmed it out of order. So
yeah. So once we get from Joe's reaction, mainly talking about his kids, all that, a big part of the season where family is kind of a theme this season. We get to the opening confessionals, which are the normal, and we cut straight to Joe.
yeah,
I don't even remember what he said in that. I think he might have just talked about his kids more. Again, adding to his content.
yeah.
To where we get to the beach and we get the normal spiel and match chat where did we get match chat this season actually? I don't even
I
remember.
think did we?
Cause
Should I open Paramount and check? Because I can.
yeah, you can.
Might as well.
Cause from what I remember, we didn't get match chat this season.
I feel like we did, but it might have been brief.
Cause
I think I remember Mitch talking, but
it could. I think Mitch could have talked. Yeah. To where if we did get one, it was one that was very unmemorable.
okay. So we got
Cause like we're 47 at least, we have John talking like he does. To where that kind of puts a
yeah.
target on his back, and season before with Soda and the winners always getting the talk until what was that 45 I think.
Yeah, I think it was it was kind of 45 because I think we only got Bruce and Emily that season.
Bruce, Emily, and Brandon.
Yeah, and then 46, I think they just fully got rid of it because I remember that was when he was talking about one of you can never win no matter what. But
And then we cut to Kenzie, and everyone thinks, oh, Kenzie's the one who can't win. Yet it's saying the other thing, saying the opposite, because it's like no matter who you go against, you cannot win this game. And it cut to Kenzie, leading to her winner at it.
also I'm looking at 48 and we did get Matt Chat. We got Mitch, Chrissy, Kevin, and wow, that's it.
So no one from probably the most important tribe of the season, Loki.
Yeah, which is very surprising because I would have expected one from at least Shaheen, honestly.
Shaheen, Joe, Eva, like some of the biggest characters of the season. Even
Yeah.
Thomas, where
Yeah,
the
you could have
energy's
even given one from
cool.
Thomas because honestly, the only character on the season on Logi, or the only person on the season on Logi that it wasn't a character was Bianca. And even then, she was still present.
Yeah, but I think Mitch only talked about his stutter. I don't remember what Chrissy talked about at all, or what Kevin talked about.
All I remember was Mitch talking about his stutter and I think talking about season 6, but that was like it.
Yes, because we get a flashback to Chrissy.
Yeah.
So we get Jeff's normal spiel where uh this season he talks about how he wants everyone to play hard because you only get one chance, so might as well play as hard as you can instead of going out passively. I don't remember if we cut anyone during that segment.
I don't think we did, but honestly, I could probably check post recording just to see.
Because I feel like if we did cut anyone during that, it'd be like Mitch or like Stephanie.
Yeah, either or.
Where that's another big prevailing theme this season, where I think this season has two big themes and maybe a third. But playing hard is like the third. Duos are one of the main ones, and the concept of family slash community is once again a big theme.
Yeah, 100%.
Which I tie that in with the honesty theme of this season, where those two are the same, kind of.
It definitely makes for a uninteresting season in my eyes, though. At least, I don't know, just compared to last season, this season felt so empty, at least post merge. Just because it was revolving around one theme and then nothing changed.
Yeah, and so my thoughts on the season overall, we should talk about this before, but we didn't. Whatever. Are that still think it's the worst new era, the second worst new era season. It still is above 44 for me, where 44 is last. But I think what brings this up is the pre-merge, and by the finale and the end of the season, it puts this season in retrospect so differently. Just seeing this story, and I think it wasn't until the penultimate episode I was like, oh my god, the story of this season, it's not only the story of Joe losing, I always knew that, but just seeing the character development in Joe. It's the Joe show.
Yeah, this is definitely just Survivor Jody 6, as one might say. I don't know why I'm saying that like it's a pre-existing quote, but it's it's the Joe show. And I don't know, because for me, I was pretty confident in that it was going to be either an Eva or a Joe win until like I don't know, like let's say like episode 6 or 7, maybe 8. And then I was like, okay, I don't think Eva wins, but Joe's definitely winning. But then once we got to like maybe episode 11 or 12, I was just like, okay, Joe's edit's very obvious. There's no way he wins. But the thing was who. And because at that point, the only realistic choices left were Kyle or Camilla, I just clocked that it was one of those two pretty much right away.
I actually had Kyle and Camilla clocked from the beginning of the season, because Camilla gets some very good content here during the pre-merge, where she's still under-edited, which was a big red flag, but with us constantly hearing her point of view and getting good second-person point of view about her from Kyle, I always had a feeling it was one of those two, thinking Joe would be like a losing finalist or go out and fire.
Yeah. And the thing for me that was interesting about Camilla's edit is that she was very visible in the pre-merge, and then for the post-merge, she was like kind of visible, like with Kyle, but not as much like on her own. And then once we got to Final Five, her immunity win boosted her edit so much to the point that I was like, okay, so she either goes out in fire or she wins the season. And that ended up being correct. She ended up going out in fire.
Yeah. Now, I did also think it even win Eva win could be possible by the I believe this episode we get this line where it's when Joe finds out about Eva's autism and is like, I will sacrifice my game for her, whether it costs me the game or not. Now, I thought that would lead to like Eva beating Joe in fire or something. No. I think that more just leans into the theme with Joe of he's just a nice guy.
Yeah. And you saying that reminded me, oh my god. For some reason that just reminds me of Co Wrong, or not Co Wrong, Game Changers with Debbie's jury vote when she's just like voting for Brad and she's just like, in this world, nice guys always finish first or something, and it's like, oh. but we know Debbie would have voted for Joe, at least.
So we get to the challenge. It's a generic challenge. I don't remember any challenges this season. They were some of them, but most of them were so generic. Like this was probably one of the worst New Era seasons challenge wise as well.
Yeah, challenge wise, I can't name any of the comps or challenges that they had, or even the puzzles really, because honestly, the only memorable one is Samotion because it's Samotion. So,
I remember Smotion in the one where you have to hold the ball above your head with the railing,
oh
and
yeah, that one.
when they had the pole one like they had for Final Immunity in Samoa, except it was a ball, so it was
Yeah,
maybe harder, maybe easier. I'm not even. I think that would be easier.
I feel like it'd be harder because it moves more.
True, but the big thing to remember is that with all challenges like that, now I doubt Samoa had this, but with a challenge with balls and stuff, there's always like a tiny lip on the ball. Not on the ball,
Yeah, I
on the
guess it's true.
platform.
Yeah, on the platform.
And then when we had the snake maze, in the finale, I think it was the one Camilla won. I think.
Oh,
Um,
the.
it was the snake maze. There's were indentions for the ball to be in, so it was really hard to drop the ball unless you were like completely messing up.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I think that was in episode 12. I think didn't Joe win that one?
I think Joe won that, yeah.
Yeah.
So we start with this first reward challenge for the suppliers. I don't care, but we see that Vula is a hot mess off the bat. Like they have no
Especially
idea
with
what they're
Kevin
doing.
dislocating his shoulder.
One of the more interesting moments to talk about in the season in an editing prospect where we supposedly medical did see him in on Fire podcast. Jeff talked about this, and remember it was in the promo, the shot of medical seeing Kevin.
I'm sorry, I had to grab something.
It's okay.
But yeah, I still don't know why they didn't show that in the edit, especially because like it was even mentioned in the after show. I think when yeah, because Kyle was like I ended up helping the guy who dislocated his shoulder or something.
I think it's just the fact that it wasn't important to the story. I know 47's promo came out like first week they're filming. I think don't think this season had the same problem, obviously. To where I'm not sure why they left that in the promo but didn't leave it in the episode. But
Yeah,
I believe Logie wins this challenge to where we move on to the journey, which God, I think these are actually worse than Sweat versus Savvy on a on a game level. Entertainment wise, they're about the same.
Vula won reward too. I just checked and I was confused. That's why I didn't say anything for a second.
No, I think that's referring to when they go to the journey and Kevin wins.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I was confused because they worded it so odd.
But we get this. I do remember this challenge because it's super unique, and I wish we were been able to see this in like an individual setting in the merge or something, where they have to like find a rope and pull it out of the ground, getting their machete, which they use to like chop something, I believe, and they have to
I
use a
think so.
pot of water from there to pour it into a glass vase or ceramic, either or.
And then that's when we see Kyle shatter his because he wasn't being gentle enough.
I do think it's dumb he was able to shatter a part of a challenge. So it's not like a
Yeah.
Jake from 45 where Jake was aggressively walking and clearly breaking the rules of the challenge to where it makes sense that he broke the challenge. But with Kyle, he just was doing it normally and accidentally hit it and it broke.
Yeah, because I still remember Jake getting uh, yelled at basically by Jeff, being like, "Come on, man!"
Yeah, Jeff was like, if you break it, you're disqualified.
And then he's just like moping by the beach afterward.
But I think this scene also leads into Kyle's winner edit some, to where his big journey through the season seems to be overcoming his overconfidence, to where here we see him break the vase, but he immediately goes to help Kevin out. And I don't remember if Kevin got a confession. I think he did, talking about how, oh, Kyle's such a great guy. He helped me out after breaking his vase.
I feel like we did get a confession about that, but I don't remember.
And gameplay wise, I agree with this decision.
Same here.
I don't think any downside comes from this. If you like just are losing that bad, like broke it to where you can't finish it, help the other person. They built some social capital if Kevin would have made the merge, but we'll talk about Kevin's game.
It's an interesting story.
I can't remember which camp we cut to first afterwards. Oh yeah.
After that, I feel like we went to I feel like we went to Vula.
Also, before we move on, I mentioned how I prefer Sweat versus Savvy over the Journeys game wise. What's your opinion on that?
Um,
And
I'm a little wait, what?
by the way, for the audience, by the journeys, I mean the starting journey, like we've had this season in 47, where like one person from each tribe is sent alone to do the challenge. Like I don't like that on a game level.
Yeah, I'm a little indifferent. It's definitely a little worse because you're especially away from camp, but it's not too different to the point where like I think it's like a terrible choice because I can live with it.
I don't think
I
it.
don't agree with it 100%, but
I don't think it
it could
affected
be worse.
anyone this season. Unlike last season, where I think it directly does kind of screw TK and Asia. But this season, it didn't really have much of an effect. I'll, one thing we forgot to mention is the fact that the tribes got to choose who goes on these journeys. Vula still decides to choose Kevin anyway, despite him dislocating his shoulder. And I think Kevin props this up in confessional as, oh, I want to prove myself to the tribe that I'm not a liability, which not a great move in my eyes.
Yeah,
Now it works out
but
for him, but
they did it to themselves.
so yeah, we'll move on to Vula, and this is where we get. I believe this is when we get Say making the men's alliance, or was that after the challenge?
This is what happens when you don't take notes. Not really sure.
But this is like obviously it's premiere. It's where we set up all the dynamics and relationships. Where we can just talk about that pre-challenge, I guess. Where on Vula we have Say immediately going to the men, being like, "Hey, I want to work with y'all," and I think she says in the confessional, "I don't like working with women."
And boy, how that aged.
Which Stephanie and Mary connect, and supposedly Mary and Kevin were actually pretty close as well. To where, to me, that makes Kevin's decision at this vote much worse.
Because he had choices and he chose probably the worst choice he could have chosen.
Yeah, because he was on the bottom of that alliance, so we don't get to see this till like post challenge. But Cedric and Justin are in the middle. The show shows it's Kevin, but it's clear that it's Justin and Cedric. Because it's the same way the next two rounds, where they're in the middle of these two pairings and get to choose who goes home. where we wonder why Vulu was such a mess, but I think just the way their tribe dynamics immediately break down is a big reason why.
I think so too. Yeah.
With them immediately being so divided.
And there was pretty much three duos on that tribe, so
But also, I don't know what the producers were thinking this season when they did these tribes with thinking, I guess they thought Kevin could carry this tribe?
yeah. The tribe balancing strength wise was admittedly horrible this season. It led for a great pre-merge, but it was not very balanced.
So we move on to, I don't know if we move on to Siva or Logi first. We can talk about Logi first. Um, we get to see, this I think is the more complex tribe, which is even, again, weirder, editing-wise,
Yeah.
to where we first get to find out that the California Girls is created because somehow we got three people from California all in the same tribe. What
And
the
they're all men too.
yeah, they're all white men too. I
At least
think.
one's gay.
True. But we have Thomas, Joe, and Shaheen being part of the California Girls. Then Thomas also has a relationship with Bianca and seems to be okay with Star, but not great.
I
And I
feel
think,
like it was kind of one-sided with Star. I feel like,
yeah, we don't even explore that until the next episode, I think, anyway.
yeah, I don't think so.
Where, I believe Star finds the idol in this episode, but doesn't get it solved until. Doesn't, like. No, she finds it in the second or third episode and doesn't get it solved till the swap.
I think so. Yeah.
But I mentioned this in the player review where I don't know if I think Thomas would always side with the California Girls, to where I think Bianca was screwed in this pre-swap portion.
Yeah, that's a little hard of a call though, because I know Thomas considered Bianca his number one, but like from a number standpoint, it definitely does not make sense to do so.
I think that is the thing to me. Is so we also have Eva. I didn't even mention her where she's connected to Joe. She's not part of the California Girls, but I think she's more ingratiated than Bianca ever was. With Joe being way more willing to keep Eva over Thomas keeping Bianca. Well, I think he would know it's a fight not worth fighting. Now it doesn't matter because this tribe never goes to tribal council anyway.
Yeah.
Where I do have mentioned this moment. I mentioned it earlier, but Eva, I believe in her opening confessional of the season, mentioned her autism, and then we get a segment where she reveals it to Joe, and like I said before, Joe is like, "I'm not going to let her lose this game. I will sacrifice my game for her," and that ends up going nowhere, almost.
Yeah, because final tribal results.
Yeah, I guess that's like the only conclusion to that, but it's not truly satisfying. I just think it was left in there to show, hey, Joe's a great person, and to establish their duo even more.
Yeah, because this season was definitely made. Because my theory, and this is related to Survivor 50, so it's technically not even related, but I gotta say this. My theory is that Joe is on 50, and they made this entire season's editing in order to hype him up for that. Kind of similar to how they did that with Russell Hantz and Samoa going into Heroes vs. Villains.
I,
That would be my guess.
I wouldn't be too shocked about that. Now, I don't think they dislike Kyle like they did Natalie White, but I think they still prefer Joe over Natalie White. Not Natalie White, over Kyle.
I mean, I'm sure this. Honestly, this with how the season was edited, I feel like Joe is probably their favorite player of all time. So
It's the archetype Jeff loves. He really
yeah,
is.
definitely. I mean, Joe literally cried an immunity challenge over it, so
So, we cut to Siva where this is super basic dynamics here, where Mitch and Charity. I don't even think we find out in this episode that Mitch and Charity are close. We find out episode 2, I think.
yeah, it's definitely established here, but I don't think it's mentioned till next episode.
To where they're on the bottom of the tribe, and we have a majority alliance with Chrissy, Kyle, Camilla, and David. And David and Kyle are super close, mostly from post game. To where the show shows it as Camilla and Kyle were like like that immediately. They didn't really get that close until like what was it, David Boot, I think.
Yeah.
To where it does to where I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, they made this. They just edited a completely different season." I don't fully buy into that. I think what's important
It
to show.
does.
Go ahead.
There you go. Oh, hold on. Oh,
You can go ahead.
it does. It does go to show for me though. Uh, okay, I don't even know why I started a sentence like that. That doesn't make sense. I'm gonna restart. But for me, it's just interesting how they tried to edit the season like Kyle and Camilla's relationship was so secret when if you in hindsight if you look at it the Thomas boot round after that it should have been clear as it should have been clear as day. I don't know what I don't know why they tried to pass that off, but
Well, also supposedly by time of the merge, I think by David Boot, everybody knew about it. Now I don't know how much I believe
yeah.
that with the fact they didn't do anything about it. Besides David and
Hmm.
Mary trying to do something about it, and even in that
Then
case,
again, we have players like Mitch though, so you never know.
well, even in that case, that was more of a misread from them, where they thought Camilla was with Shaheen, and they didn't even figure out Kyle and Camilla was together until Kyle was like panicking, trying to save Camilla.
Yeah.
So there's not much to talk about pre-challenge because all dynamics set up. Those are dynamics, pretty simple. But we get to immunity challenge. I don't even remember what this was. This isn't the.
I think it was a challenge. Let me look.
This was not the challenge where Cedric kept falling in the water. I do know that.
Yeah, I think that was an next episode. But
Yeah, that's right. Because Kevin was
he
there, but Cedric
was
wasn't.
uh the tribes will race through a platform and a net crawl. One tribe member will use a war club to break a mast that contains a key. Key unlocks a sled. Navigate through sandbags. End up on a platform. Logo puzzle.
They only had
So
that.
just a standard challenge.
They only had the mask destruction in there just so they could have a cool shot for the intro and promos. There's no way they
Yeah,
like
definitely.
because it is so pointless in the challenge itself.
Yeah,
Because at least
just
this
one part of it.
challenge is has one thing that I criticize a lot challenges for, where it feels like it has a point. You're getting from one end to another. Like there's some challenges where
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't feel that way.
There's definitely challenges where it feels messy.
But Vula lose. I believe Logi gets first and Siva gets second.
Correct.
Which I mean, to be fair, we do get to see at the merge that it's not just Joe carrying this tribe. Now he does win a lot of immunities, but we see that most people on this season are actually good physically.
Strong five.
Strong five, but also Mitch. Mitch is like a very good competitor.
Yeah, which is kind of shocking. Doesn't look like he would be.
And we both watched this with someone, and I was talking to that person. They're like, they mentioned how it helps Mitch that he's a gym coach.
I always forget he's a gym coach.
But like, it makes sense with his challenge performance, especially since he wins the basketball challenge for the map point, I believe.
Yeah.
But we get back to camp to where it's just a simple Stephanie vet off. Not much else. They try to have suspense that Say will go. Clearly, Say's not going here. Why would she?
Why was my computer volume just lowering itself? What the fuck?
Oh, it does. Oh, computers do that.
It's never done that before. That was weird.
But I will mention here, I think this is a weird spot for Kevin where he really should have threatened Rocks.
Yeah,
Because we know post game he had a great relationship with Mary, and with that, Stephanie, Mary, and Kevin really should have got together, made a tie, and be like, "Hey, we are not flipping. We are going to Rocks."
and that would have been honestly really fun to see if they pulled that off, but
Because really, if Kevin didn't blow up his game in the very next round, I think he goes at the third vote.
instead it's second.
Yeah, but Stephanie goes out. I think she played her shot in the dark and it didn't work.
uh, she no, she didn't even play it at all.
Oh, I know we get a couple people. Oh yeah, that's right, because they were actually somehow able to play it off. That Say was going home.
Or wait, no, she did play it. I'm stupid.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. To where, funnily enough, we get people later on forgetting they even have a shot in the dark they can play.
Yeah, the shot in the dark was used pretty much exclusively pre-merge. Actually, no, not even pretty much. It was exclusively used pre-merge this season, season.
And I guess let's talk about Stephanie. Like, she just played super passively. She, her storyline is that she played too passive, and it kind of felt like propaganda to her phone production to be like, "Hey, don't play like Stephanie."
Only for us to get Mitch later on.
Yeah, but Stephanie isn't even that bad a player to me. In the player ranking, I have her second to last because someone else is last, and we'll talk about them later on. Moving on to episode 2, and God, so pre-challenge, I don't. Oh wait, I think this is the episode where Joe makes the bonfire. I do remember that, and Eva
Yeah, that sounds
gives
right to me.
gives him the bracelet, and it's a terrible move doing this openly. But also, I think with Eva, this is a thing that's hard to discredit her for because it's just obvious. I mean, we know why.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't remember what happens on Siva. I think this is when we truly get to see that Charity's at the bottom. A spot where she will never leave the whole season.
Yeah, she was. Uh, Charity is probably the definition of a nepo baby survivor player, and by that I mean her family, aka tribe mates, carried her forward because she didn't she not go to a single tribal pre-merge?
Yeah, no, she didn't go to a single tribal. Because if she did, she would have been taken out
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure several people confirmed she would have gone home first on her tribe.
on her original tribe and swap to where
Yeah, and
I
swap.
imagine Star would be able to stay over Charity. Because even Eva somehow didn't like Charity by time swap.
Yeah.
Which is funny because pre-season Charity was mentioning how like she wanted to build great relationships with everyone and how it's all about social game. Yet I think that's her weakest aspect. Just no one liked her.
Yeah. And she just I don't know, just based on what we did see from her, I feel like she just kind of came off as conniving and stuff. I don't think she just doesn't even seem like she would fit in to me. That's just my take.
She also gives off flight attendant in the worst way. I feel like constantly she has that vibe.
Yeah, no, I see that honestly. I get that.
Kind of reminds me of like Caleb, except at least with Caleb, he was able to get some footing in the game.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything else that happens before the challenge.
Yeah, me neither. Actually, no, I remember. Wait, do I remember? Or was that post challenge? Never mind, that was post challenge. I think I take it back.
We get to see Mary's reaction to the Stephanie vote. Also, I forgot to mention, she got the cuss in her very first confessional, so you knew producers loved her.
Oh yeah,
Which
I'd live for it, but
Mary thought this pre-merge is a great character and just dips because of her edits dropping by the time the merge.
yeah, which is sad because I did like her, other than her questionable alliance choices. But
I think gameplay wise, she's not good. She is the lowest, uh, besides Charity, the lowest merger on my player ranking, which I'll get to explain more tomorrow. Or whatever it's posted. Um, yeah, I don't remember anything else that happens pre-challenge, sadly. I think Star finds Idol. Not,
that's yeah. I think Star finds it, and then I think that's when because I remember this specifically because this was the first episode I went to a watch party for, and I remember everyone freaking out over this. But I remember when she told everyone, I think Thomas was like, "We need to throw her under the bus" or something like that.
yes, because she told everyone but Eva, and uh, when Star comes to Thomas to help her. No, she comes to Shaheen first. Shaheen's trying to decide whether he wanted to throw it or not. And then Thomas tells him, hey, you should make sure she doesn't get that idol.
Oh yeah, and then wasn't he like trying to quote unquote help her, but like actually wasn't doing shit.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
Shaheen was like, I don't know, man. I don't think that's a good idea. We also have Say finding her idol in this episode and Kyle finding his. To where
Oh yeah,
Cedric sells it for Say, Camilla sells it for Kyle.
just more to add on to the alliance train.
I do find it very funny that none of the people who got their idols solved it themselves.
Yeah, and then one of them, when they did get it, they didn't even keep it. They just gave it to the other.
Well, it's a thing where like, Say kept his, Say kept hers, and Kyle kept his, because that plays a factor into the swap.
But then Star,
We can talk about that when we get to that.
yeah.
So, we Vula lose again. Of course they do. I think they were actually close to winning, but lose because of Vula. Of course they did. And we just see Kevin blow up his game. Where this is where I really think the fact he didn't at least try to take out Say in the previous round hurts him so bad. He tries to take out Say here, to where he has Mary. Mary's all with him. And he tries getting Justin and Cedric, but the problem is they don't really have a reason to take out Say here. Well, it's such a marginal choice for them, I feel like.
The episode was so long ago that I honestly don't remember.
Well, I mean, like, I really don't know who's better to keep for the game, Say or Kevin. Where
Probably neither.
I think they're both about. Well, oh, because decision was between Kevin and Mary, I think. Not between. Or was it between Say and Kevin? I don't remember.
I think it was between Mary and Say until Kevin did whatever, and then it was between Kevin and Say. Because
Yeah,
this is the episode Say idols herself.
yeah, she plays her idol. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it
Kevin
doesn't
gets
matter
voted
anyway.
out. I don't remember if Kevin even played a shot in the dark.
He did not because he was very confident he'd be safe.
And Kevin was the golden boy of this season. It felt like he was meant to be like the Kyle from 47 type archetype, the Hunter,
Yeah.
those archetypes. He was just a golden retriever. Reminded me a lot of Eddie from Caramoan.
Oh yeah, no, I see that 1 billion% in hindsight. Who is this and why did they DM me? Oh, it's this bitch.
um, moving on to episode 3, where again I don't remember what happens pre-challenge, like at all. I mean, part of that
Yeah.
is because so much of it is filler, especially Siva wise, where it's so weird. Siva was is the tribe who ends up getting the winner, yet um they feel like their content is nothing of substance.
Yeah, Siva was definitely the filler tribe this season.
Logi, I don't think anything even important happened on Logi this time. Just more stars on the bottom. And then Vula, we get the reaction from Mary. We don't get anything important from Vula until after the challenge, honestly.
Yeah. And also on Log wasn't this the episode that um Bianca tried to target Eva?
Oh, yeah, I think it might have been. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That sounds right to me. Because I know Eva tried to kindle a relationship with Bianca, I think, but Bianca was like, I'm not buying that bullshit or something. I don't remember.
And it still doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anyway because they did not go to tribal again.
To where, wow, what a shocker. Vula goes to tribal again, where we get definitely one of my favorite tribals of the new era for sure. Maybe of all
For
time.
me, it might. Yeah, for me, it might even be in my top 5 that I've ever watched. Period.
Like, especially hearing behind the scenes just makes it so much better. But let's start
That's
with.
very good. Very good.
Would your mic quality get worse?
I was talking to my sister.
Oh. Uh, so, we get back to Vula, and Murray's like, well, I'm screwed. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pretend I have an idol and see if I can trick them into not voting me. It doesn't work, which is major downside of her game to me. I don't think this is even a inherently bad move. It's just she didn't sell it right.
Yeah, it's. I respect the effort, and had it worked, it probably would have been a season-wide great move. But for sure, though, even though it was kind of funny to see how she tried to pull it off, it definitely did not go well.
And we have Say worried that Mary may have an idol because of this and is targeting and wants to vote for Justin during the tribal, where this is kind of the main setup we get to the Justin vote off. Besides the journey where he gets completely screwed. I believe this isn't the Yahtzee journey. No, this is the Wait, which journey is this? I think this is the Yahtzee journey. I think.
Wasn't that last season? Oh wait, no, I'm stupid. It was yeah, it was this episode because I remember Camilla winning it.
Yeah, then Bianca lost her vote and Justin lost his vote.
Yeah,
And both of those become very important. where
yeah, both become very important.
where Thomas completely lies to his tribe for no reason about what the journey was, which I think you should not lie about what the journey is, because that's such a bad move. So easy to get caught.
Yeah, and even if because like last episode when Mitch won whatever he won, uh, even if it was probably not the best move, it was definitely not a bad thing to do to just be like, okay, I got an advantage.
And I think with a tribe like Siva, I think it is the best play with them being so close. I think it was more like if it was Vula or Lagi, it would be different. I also
Yeah,
just realized this season we have two tribes ending in A, which we normally don't have.
should have been Laga for Logi instead. Probably doesn't even mean anything, but
But okay, because we got that theme of the sun, moon, and sky. I forgot about that.
yeah.
It was so nothing. But this journey is probably so important for the next two rounds of gameplay. Well, next,
Which
well, not next two, but this round and the round after next.
yeah, which even if the journey itself kind of sucked, I will say it resulted in some great moments.
To where so Justin loses his vote. He comes back to his tribe. I believe he is the one who tells the lie that he got to choose between camp supplies, honesty, something like that. Like something completely bullshit.
It was, I think it was like camp supplies or like an advantage, and he said, I chose camp supplies, and then it'll get here tomorrow or whatever he said. I don't know why I keep doing the southern accent, but
He's quite the opposite.
yeah, it was quite opposite.
But
But yeah,
he doesn't end up telling anyone he lost his vote, which seems to be the biggest thing. Where I think he is really screwed over in this vote, but there are obviously mistakes he makes.
yeah.
Where I think not telling Cedric that he lost his vote like early in the round is a bad idea, but also seeing what Cedric does later, I'm not sure.
Because like even if he wasn't honest with his ally, Cedric's move is just horrible. Like I'm
And
glad he did it, but it's so bad for himself.
it's a thing where it was so hard to rank Cedric because the rest of his game's actually pretty good, besides that one move.
And that's where it started to tank.
Well, because even then, during the swap, we'll talk about this when we get to swap, but he was the main proponent for that vote.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So Justin loses his vote. They still decide I which this is insane to me that they all still vote Mary when she knows she's on the bottom and you suspect she has something. Like this all could have been avoided if Sage did what she said she was going to do originally and voted for Justin.
But nope. Can't have nice things.
What?
The jokes.
But we get to tribal and supposedly this is one of the longest tribals in Survivor history, from what Justin said in his exit press. Now, also, I'm assuming Jeff said that, and knowing Jeff, he's probably wrong.
Yeah, I doubt they even time that stuff. So
But
they obviously time challenges,
I can very much believe it, especially after everything that happens. But supposedly was the longest, even before what happens. To we get to the vote, and Mary plays her shot in the dark. It lands. Wow, what a shocker! Especially since we had like what was it, 20 minutes left in the episode by that point.
yeah,
To
I think I remember turning to my mom when they were like, "Okay, it's time to read the votes," and I was like, "Okay, clearly something happens because there's like forever left."
to where very safe. We get a no votes tribal. We go into a tie. We go into votes again. We we tie. One vote Justin, one vote Say. To where I bel yeah. So what happens is that we redo the rules from 47, where during this tie, Say does get to vote again because she was part of the tie, but Justin had lost his vote. Which I don't like them saying that publicly, but
They kind of had to in a way.
yeah. But they vote again. Somehow, still, we deadlock to where we can't go to rocks. There's only one person here who would go out in rocks, and that would be Cedric. So instead, Cedric is the one who gets to make the decision here.
I loved the threat Jeff gave though, where he's like, "If you can't make a decision in time, it's you're going out." Like
And
that was awesome.
and we mainly get to see Say fighting. Now supposedly Justin was fighting. I believe it. I just think they didn't like Justin by that point. But the producers, I mean, didn't. To so Say fighting doesn't even work until she uh like Cedric's like, I made a deal with Justin that we would stay together, and then Say is like, but he didn't tell you he lost his vote.
Which like good point, but it doesn't mean it's good for his game.
To where we get this very Big Brother type moment with the way Cedric tells Justin he's going home.
I'll see you up in Boston or whatever he says.
He's like, I'll see you in Luigi's month because I'm keeping Say. It feels so much like a Big Brother moment, like a dance nominee roulette or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's either like that or something. I don't know. It's just it kind of gives chemo in a way, or like something someone would say to chemo,
Yeah.
like the Friends Alliance.
So, let's talk about Justin. And I personally like Justin in this season. Part of that is the fact he's from Boston and has a funny accent to me. But
Yeah,
he's a guy who seems affable enough. I think he's the best pre-merge player this season for sure. Like, he played the best game, pre-merge wise.
I don't remember if there was any other point I had about the boot.
I do want to get your opinion on Justin as a player, since obviously I just stated mine. That probably might be a little controversial, but to me, I think he
As a
played his
player,
pre-merge game to where he was in the middle the whole time, and really in this spot, if it wasn't for him losing his vote and the fact that Murray shot in the dark, a 1 in 6 chance, worked, he would be in the game still.
yeah,
And
I feel like he played on a like an average to above average, like slightly above average pre-merge game. Because like you said, the reasons for his boot weren't his fault, like pretty much at all.
there's an
The
argument
only
he is.
downside to his game, well, yeah, there's an argument then maybe, but like the only downside to his game was just lying about the journey, especially to Cedric.
Yeah, but also, I think he could be one of the most twisted players in Survivor history. For sure of the new era, but in Survivor history.
Yeah, I could see that.
Moving on to episode
Out in the dark.
moving on to episode 4, where we get to the swap, which I am very glad to see after Survivor 45.
Same here. I'm so glad it's making a return.
Now, I still wish we just went down the 2 tribes, but whatever.
Yeah, same.
But this swap does end up being interesting, which I like. I don't even remember the tribe divisions. Can you remind me of them?
think it was on New Vula, it was Thomas, Shaheen, Joe, Kyle, Camilla. On New Siva, it was uh, Bianca, Say, Cedric, Chrissy, Mitch, and then on New Loggy, it was Charity, David, Star, Mary, Eva.
And I really think this portion of the game is the most important to how the merge plays out, actually.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, I believe it's this very episode we have Star uh, gi- giving Eva the idol because Eva solves the puzzle. Well, Eva also throws Star under the bus before that, and there's Charity under the bus, where it was clear if they went to tribal, those who would have been going home. But they don't. They end up being probably the least interesting tribe because there's nothing else to do with them, really.
Yeah. Oh, so I think the Star giving Eva the idol thing, I think that's next episode because I think it was after the big challenge moment.
It was. That's right. Which we also see. So Eva earlier in the season told Joe what to do if like she starts having an episode because that happens a lot with people on spectrums where they get overwhelmed more easily than most to where they can start having episodes. And we see
Yeah.
Eva almost being close to having one during the swap. You can tell she was very, very nervous during
Yeah,
like the swap
very
itself.
uncomfortable.
I will say it's very funny how everyone, how Vula is celebrating and everyone else is like, "Oh God."
Yeah.
But we get to see dynamics on the new what was it, Loggy, the one with why can't nothing? The one with Bianca, Chrissy, etc. All that. I believe it was Loggy.
Uh, with Chrissy, Bianca, Cedric, or
Yeah.
not Chrissy. Uh, Chrissy's on New Loggy. Cedric, Chrissy, we're on Eva though.
Well, because remember Cedric, uh, Chrissy, Bianca, Say, and Mitch were all on one tribe, so they were on old Siva
Yeah.
then, or new Siva. Um, so there's not too much to talk about this one because they don't even show their dynamics much, but we do get to hear that Bianca's scared because she's the only Loggy on the tribe, and I will say I think Bianca's pretty swap screwed here. Now she could have played it better for sure, but she is swap screwed.
Yeah, I think she was doing a good job until she revealed that she had lost her vote, and then at that point, I knew her fate was sealed. Had she not said that, I think she might have made it a little further. I don't know how far exactly, but
To where, I mean, she's obviously the only Loggy, but more importantly, Loggy was such a big target for everyone at this point for some reason. I don't know why out of the tribes, but that doesn't even happen until next episode. So moving on to New Vula, where we immediately start the segment. This is for some reason memorable to me. We start this segment with Joe being so disappointed in the Vula camp, being like, "Oh my God, what did we just walk into?"
yeah, I remember them like thinking like it got hit by a hurricane or something. It was bad.
But dynamics in this tribe are fairly simple in the California girls all together, and then we have Kyle and Camilla, where I think Kyle or Camilla go out here. They're royally swap screwed as well. But getting to how that plays out,
Surprisingly well.
to where we get to challenge, Nivula loses despite coming in very overconfident, and I think dancing. To where they lose immunity, and we cut back to camp, where they are targeting Kyle, or at least Shaheen and Joe are targeting Kyle, while Thomas wants Camilla. Now, I would credit Camilla with this. She's able to build a relationship with these guys to where they want to keep her safe and actually go through Kyle's bag right in front of her. But this also leans into their plan,
Yeah.
which I think isn't a bad plan at all with the circumstances they have. With Kyle having his idol, they decide to make sure they can garner votes onto Kyle, so that Kyle can play his idol and take out whoever they want. Now, originally, Shaheen is the target, but turns to Thomas because he lied about the journey.
Should have been Shaheen.
Yeah, I love both of them. I don't care. But
Yeah, I like both. I like Thomas more than Shaheen. I wasn't the biggest Shaheen fan, but even to me, I feel like it would have been better in the long run for them to have gotten Shaheen out then.
oh, for sure, I agree. Um, but even with that, this just goes to show why you shouldn't lie about what the journeys are. Like, you can lie about having an advantage, that's different, but, like, you shouldn't be lying about what these journeys are.
Yeah, no. Especially if it's something like far fetched that no one's gonna believe, or that's like very odd.
Because the only reason they knew that he lied is because Camilla was like, but Mitch told me it was this. And then, Mitch also was like, oh yeah, I got this advantage. Got his block of vote, which is such a nothing advantage.
Yeah. Especially because it still ties at that point.
Where Thomas has a steal of vote that he doesn't play here for some reason. Now, it wouldn't matter either way, but why?
Yeah.
To where we just see the downfall of Thomas here, where Camilla tries sowing doubt into Joe and Shaheen's minds about Thomas. It doesn't work well, but it causes them to target Thomas and target Thomas comes out in a 2-0 vote. Where Thomas is such a great character this season.
Yeah, he was very robbed, in my opinion. Like, even if I kind of I'm very much fine with Kyle getting the upper hand there, especially knowing that Strong Five alliance ended up dominating, and I hate that alliance with a passion. But uh, I do think he was robbed, and I wouldn't mind seeing him back, even if I don't think it's that likely.
I think he I think if anyone went out in whoever went out in this tribal would have been swap screwed anyway. Kyle and Camilla for sure. And then obviously the California girls because Kyle has an idol that they don't know about. Somehow didn't
Yeah.
find his bag. To where Thomas is a great character. Really hamming up the villain role. I remember hearing about him preseason and I was excited knowing that someone who works with some of the biggest musicians right now is big on Survivor. But player wise, he's not bad either.
Yeah, I agree. I was excited for him preseason. I think I had him on my draft actually. That didn't go too well. I ended up getting last place, but
So we move on to episode 5, and this has the biggest moment of possibly the new era.
I'd agree. Yeah,
I think
of
if
the
you
new era,
ask Jeff to give probably one of his favorite Survivor moments, he will say this.
especially knowing him. Yeah, he loves those emotional moments.
To our pre-challenge, we don't get much. This is where Star does get no, not pre-challenge. But I don't think anything even happens pre-challenge besides Kyle and Camilla doing damage control. And pretty good to where this is where probably the biggest relationship, one of the biggest relationship of the season, uh, is created with Kyle and Joe. Like such an important relationship that plays into how the season turns out and how Kyle wins the game.
Yeah, and I could definitely see how their relationship could be in ways a bit more important than Kyle and Camilla's in a way. at least to the narrative.
Yeah, but nothing happens on any of the other tribes pre-challenge from what I remember.
Yeah,
We get to challenge. I don't remember what it is. I just remember it has
the
a
first
puff.
one was reward.
Yes, because there's like
Oh, I know.
there's a table maze at the end, and one tribe had already won. But on old Logi, we have Eva in the table maze, but she's struggling, and she's starting to freak out, starting to feel pressure, and she just breaks down. And you can see and I don't remember if it was post challenge to where once she gets it, she's still breaking down, and Joe gives Jeff a look like, "Can I go help her?" Jeff says yes, and Joe gets to go over there, and we watch a very heart touching moment. I do still stand by that, and I feel like a very unique moment in this season.
Yeah, both my mom and I cried over that scene.
I was very close to crying over that. And my mom had saw the clip before and did when she saw the clip the first time. And this is one of the most emotional moments in Survivor history to me, I believe. One of the few times Jeff has cried as well, which, whatever, I don't care.
Last time I even saw him tear, I was at the family visit with what was it?
Brenda.
Yeah, Brenda. I almost said Bianca. Wrong person. Yeah, and that wasn't even like to this degree. That was just kind of like a tear up.
And obviously, this is a terrible game move, but it's, I think, one where it's so hard to criticize for me because it's very clearly outside the game.
Yeah, it's
Where,
just a very human moment.
yes, and this is when Eva finally explains to everyone else she has autism and is open about it, to where that causes Star to give her the idol after she sells it, and kind of repairs that relationship. Not enough, but
Yeah, clearly not enough because later on events, but
but I think if there's any moment in this season that will be remembered in Survivor history, it's going to be that moment, and maybe even the Justin boot.
probably both. I'd say both.
Um, so we get to immunity. Was this a reward and immunity, or I don't remember.
They were separate.
We have immunity challenge. Um, New Siva loses. Womp womp. And we get a pretty chaotic vote here still, actually.
Yeah, and I'd say that the vote itself was a little generic, but it was what led up to it that made it interesting for me.
Well, also, I believe this is the first 2-1-1 in Survivor history.
I think so, yeah. Let me check the episode notes because it does say at the bottom. Uh, it'll say it on Bianca's page. Is it or is it not? I don't know. It won't say. I'm pretty sure it is, but it won't say. Thought it used to, but I guess they removed that.
So, the original target from everybody is Say, as per normal. Like, she's the red herring in every single episode besides her boot round.
Which is insane.
And so, that is the main target, but we do get to see Bianca tell Cedric that she doesn't have her vote. What we don't get to see is Cedric talk to Chrissy and orchestrate the vote against Bianca. Well,
I
this
still don't know
is.
why it wasn't shown. But
I don't know either. I think they just wanted it to be a surprise.
that'd be my only guess.
where we
Which
actually
I guess
get
makes sense because it probably would have been obvious if they showed it.
where we get a well also this all happened f- only like a few minutes before tribal to where she just gets turned on like that.
Yeah,
To where this is a spot where you can argue that Bianca was swap screwed, and I kind of
and
agree
I definitely agree.
barely. To where I think she just plays it a little wrong and just causes her own boot, sadly.
I think it's a bit of both,
But we actually get a emotional moment with her just sobbing on her way out.
especially in her exit interview, like the little final words. I think.
Well, also as she was walking out,
Yeah, and that.
and I mean, let's talk about Bianca. Where I don't feel as much to say. She's not.
There isn't. I say she's definitely one of the more generic people on this cast. And that's not even to say that she's like inherently boring or even like a bad player because I don't think she's either. I did like her, but like compared to the big characters of like the entirety of Vula and like most of like everyone else, she's kind of lacking. I can't lie. She's for me, she's like the driest person on this cast.
And I don't. I have her pretty low in my player ranking. I don't think she is able to play the best game here. She had an ally in Thomas, but I do believe she would have been the second better out of her tribe. Because even if Thomas disconnects from California Girls, I don't know if he's willing to go to Rocks for Bianca, or if
Me neither.
Star's willing to go to Rocks for Bianca. Where even in that case, Star didn't have her vote, so they couldn't anyway.
Yeah.
Moving on to episode, was it 6, I think?
Yes, six.
Oh wow, we get the merge in episode 6. I'm sure shocked.
I'm so surprised.
And they call it emergatory, even though it's basically a normal merge.
Pretty much.
And this episode, it starts the low point of the season. I don't think this episode itself is bad. It's just after this, the season definitely goes down the hill.
Yeah, I'd say it's this is where it starts to slowly go downhill. Next episode after the tribal results is what makes it start to slowly dip off.
Now, this is where we can talk about edits more as well, because we don't remember anything about the pre-merge.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's really much important in the edit pre-merge anyway. To what we get to the merge, we get the merge feast, where I know Joe was on the winning team for that. I'm trying to remember who won immunity this round.
Joe actually wasn't on the winning team,
But did he
but wait, what?
but did he win immunity?
Kyle won immunity.
So Kyle wins immunity, and this is where we have the strong alliance form. An alliance with David, Joe, Eva, Kyle, and later on Mary's added. Where for these players, I think this is the best move for them. Creating just a majority alliance, especially full of other threats. The problem comes in when David tries to defend it the way he does.
Yeah, because obviously I'd like to say I have a tiny bit of Twitter brain when it comes to Survivor opinions, but to me, it's just so macho manly and like almost misogynistic with like in a way, and it's just I don't, it just made me so pissed the
It's,
way he explained it.
it's just mainly him on a high horse, especially coming from
Yeah,
someone who didn't even watch Survivor much before the season,
yeah,
where he's
and
like,
it's
we don't get to see
ugh,
this till episodes later at Tribal, but he's like, oh, it's such a problem when all these like challenge beats get together because we're normally used as shields, and it's like in the new era, yeah, but that hasn't been Survivor history.
pretty
Like
much.
a lot of the winners pre new era were people who were very good at challenges. Like that was very common.
Yeah, the only challenge threat that I can remember winning New Era was Rachel last season. So,
Yeah, now it's such a unique situation, I think, anyway.
yeah, because it was a female and not like a
Well, that
Aussie.
and like what David's more talking about is these. He's more talking about people like him who come in and are big targets just because they are big and strong and they're clearly good at challenges in the pre-merge, and you can just tell by their physique they can be a challenge to that.
Yeah.
I again don't think this is a bad move for his game. I think it's a good move for his game. It's just the way he sells it.
Yeah, the way he sold it was a massive turnoff for me.
It's
I already didn't like him. I thought he was super arrogant in the pre-merge, but that just sold him in for me hating him.
he was a fun character, and I think that continues on to his boot episode. But
He's objectively a fun character, but I just did not like him at all.
it's just the irony of him being like, "Oh, this has happened through Survivor history," and it's like you didn't even know
Yeah.
Jeff's last name preseason.
Yeah. And I think for me, uh, like this is kind of why since Jonathan Young is rumored to be on 50 right now, and we'll see if that's true tomorrow. But uh I didn't like Jonathan for pretty similar reasons, and having just watched David, uh I am like very pissed that Jonathan's probably gonna be on that season.
I think Jonathan's worse because I think of like the this is something we can actually talk about on a podcast. Do like stuff based on certain topics, but during the split tribal of 42, when they're having the discussion about race, since they hadn't seen 41 and they would just be coming off of the Black Lives Matter movement, and he's just
Yeah.
taking offense to what Drea is saying, thinking, "Oh, you're calling me a racist? I'm not a racist." And it's like, no, that's not what we're saying.
Not even close. And then, not to mention the allegations of him being misogynistic from like half the women on that cast.
Which I would love to be able to talk about topics like that, like even just controversies and Survivor stuff like that. Something we can cover in another podcast one day.
Yeah.
But this is honestly a pretty easy vote. I mean, post challenge is charity. It's clearly charity. And I mean, I'll give my eulogy on Charity. She is one of the worst players of possibly the new era, for sure. I mean, she plays so bad. There is a reason that, even though she's the merge boot, she is last on my player rankings.
Oh yeah, she was awful. I think because like it was hard to like predict her going out in pre-merge because pre-merge predictions are so difficult because you don't know which tribe will go. But the second it got to merge, I predicted her as my boot pick that episode, and I was very correct.
Oh no, I'm about to get um an essay about how someone in the org community is this terrible person. Great.
Oh wait, who specifically?
I don't know yet. But Hunter. Oh, never mind. Oh shit, never mind. Okay, I'll handle it a lot later. Uh, Ellie Barber got invited to be in a battle of orgs.
The org battle.
It's kind of sick. Anyway, but like I've said, that's my piece on Charity. I think character-wise, she was fine as well. One of the lesser names character-wise. I mean, like I said, preseason she preached. A lot of this cast preseason was preaching on how they wanted to build genuine relationships, where half of them didn't.
Yeah. I wonder how many of these people are actually friends outside the season. Probably not a lot.
Probably most of them, because most Survivor seasons end up that way, where they just you gotta
Yeah.
think situation like that bonds you together. But moving on to episode 7, where we have the split tribal. What a shock! I don't think this is the mega challenge. No, this isn't a mega challenge. That's episode 8,
Yeah.
where I mean, not much talk about pre-challenge again. We just get to see who's on the bottom. And someone voted for Say at the merge tribal. I can't. Well, it was half the votes were Say, half the votes were Charity. It's nearly a tie, but so they get split up into groups. I don't even remember the groups because it doesn't matter, honestly. Cedric and Say were screwed from the jump here to where I think everyone just saw these two and were like, we can't let Velez get farther in this game. So Say and Cedric are taken out. Say's taken out before the jury. Cedric's on the jury. Not much to say about that episode, sadly.
I wish it was the other way around, even if Cedric's jury vote was hilarious.
To where let's talk about both of them. Say's one of the best characters of the season.
Honestly, if anything, I'd say probably like the best from like my at least favorite point of view, because like objectively the Joe Eva duo is probably the best character this season. But for what I usually watch and am interested in, Faye is my favorite character this season by far, and it's not even close.
She'll be pretty high up on the character ranking. I just can't put her one because of her longevity. To where that's a
Yeah.
big part for me. But Say was great. Gameplay wise, she's god awful. She is midway in the player ranking 10. Mainly because, yeah, she's able to cultivate a majority group, but she was supposed to go out at this swap tribe and only is saved by a big mistake by Bianca and only is saved at merge because Charity sucks.
Yeah.
And with Cedric, I think, I say this throughout this whole podcast, I think he played a pretty good game. I do.
I
I
agree until we get to the fucking Justin boot was just not a great look for him.
I agree. I think taking Justin out over Say is such a bad move, but the rest of his game's pretty good. Which I will also say, apparently he just forgot the shot in the dark exists, and that's why he didn't play it during tribal.
My God.
But he was in the middle of the original Vula that whole time, and the fact he was able to be in the position he was in during the Justin vote itself is impressive. Now, the fact he votes out Justin over Say, I still disagree with. To a yeah, Say is a shield for you, but also I feel like it's more important. It's a thing where it's kind of a marginal choice, but it probably is better to keep Justin, since it seemed like that he had a better relationship with Justin than he did with Say.
Yeah.
But then at Swap Tribe, he's able to, after Bianca blows up her spot, get her out of the game. And again, impressive move. Not letting the others know to where it. I don't know how much luck it was that the other two voted separately.
Probably, I'd say it's a bit of luck, but
But I believe he is the. Where is he? I have him at 7 on the player rankings. But moving on to episode 7, speaking of 7, several.
episode several.
Yes. And this is the Chrissy boot round. Why? This episode has Chrissy being Chrissy and getting specking content again. Finally. Because she's honestly very fun when she's on screen, but she's barely on screen. To where I think this is Joe's first immunity win. Where he almost breaks a record. I don't care. To where he wasn't been making it top 8 people to have won 5 immunity challenges.
We're talking about episode 7 or 8? Because seven was Joe, but 8's Eva.
Yeah, 7 is his first immunity one.
Okay, yeah, because I was confused. I think we might have skipped the immunity results for last episode. That might have been why. I think I got a little confused.
Oh yeah, we did because they didn't matter. Where we hear more about who's on the bottom, Star, Mitch, and technically Camilla, but also Camilla has um Kyle. Where I can criticize Kyle in one way about the fact Camilla's not in the strong alliance, but also I think what saves that for me is that say the minority somehow starts coming after them and could have the votes, Camilla would be able to tell Kyle like, "Hey, they are coming after you." To where I think that's what saves that for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All in all, though, I kind of, other than the immunity challenge win and the boot, I'm not too familiar with episode 8. I don't remember it too well.
Same where Mini challenge happens, Joe wins immunity. Woo. We have post challenge stuff where this row was a little chaotic. Yes, because this is when David and Mary are trying to target Camilla, but Kyle like freaks the fuck out and makes it very clear him and Camilla are together, but is able to get Camilla saved to where they decide to just vote out Chrissy. Where in the episode before, we didn't mention this. She basically calls out the Strong Alliance.
Which is iconic.
And that is when David goes on his high horse, despite never watching the show, and is like, "We always get taken out early." And Chrissy does it again this episode, where I mean, it's a terrible game move. Makes it's fun to watch.
Sometimes bad gameplay is the best TV.
I mean, look at 46,
And Big Brother 26.
which I know I mentioned early in this podcast about this, but I do really think the gameplay this season is very much affected by 46. Seeing everyone turn against their allies left and right, I think when these players came in, they were like, we don't want to do that. I think that's why we get this majority alliance just steamrolling until the end.
Yeah, definitely.
So Chrissy goes out, and Chrissy was pretty under-edited this season.
Yeah, I wish we got more from her, especially pre-merge, because especially in the final tribal, I won't lie, I kind of love her. I'm not gonna lie. She has
Same.
that bitch energy that I like,
Same. I do
especially with
wonder.
how she was kind of talking down to Joe and Eva
I
at the end.
I do wonder if part of the casting of Chrissy is a thing where, like, during Big Brother they saw, or they casted Angela for Big Brother, then they were like, we want to figure like this for Survivor.
Yeah, and I think that explained the older cast because I'm pretty sure, on average, Diva's the oldest cast we've had, or oldest tribe we've had in like quite a while, and that shows. Or not even just Siva, maybe Vula too. Even just this entire cast is on the older side because our youngest player is 23, and there isn't a single other person that's younger than 27.
Yeah, not youngest player is Eva.
Yeah, because even Kyle, who's the youngest on his tribe's 30. So
But I mean, gameplay wise, Chrissy didn't seem bad in the majority during the Siva and post swap. Then just merged, didn't fit in with the alliance that was running things, and really she didn't get to the point where they could do anything about it.
yeah,
On to the next episode, where this one's one of the more redeeming episodes of the season for me. Watching
yeah.
David's
This
downfall was
this
very fun.
this season or this episode felt like putting a bunch of glue in your hand and peeling it all off in one go. It was awesome.
Again, pre-challenge, we do get a confessional. I believe it's here where David recognizes that Kyle and Camilla are close, and This is when the Kyle and Camilla relationship really bonds together. This is where the two supposedly actually were as close as the show tries to show you the whole time. Where really Kyle's number one was David for most of the season, actually.
Yeah, at least up until this episode.
So I don't remember what else happens per challenge because, of course,
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of this season. I feel like for 49, I'm gonna have to start actually taking notes. Just
to be fair, we did not plan to make this podcast till after the season
yeah,
ended.
this was kind of made on a whim. So
We probably would have took notes. To be honest, though,
yeah,
even with this season, I tried doing power rankings through it, like before I even had this idea, but I I stopped at episode 4. I just couldn't anymore. This season, just I had no motivation.
yeah, that kind of stuff's hard to keep up with anyway. So
So I don't remember who even wins this challenge.
it was Joe. Big surprise.
Yes, because this is also a reward challenge where Joe doesn't take David, and David's pissed because that's David here. He's pissed that Joe
All him
didn't take
lose.
him, and the show portrays as him being paranoid, but it's just him trying to make the right move for him in taking out Camilla, realizing now the way he does this isn't great, mainly in thinking Shaheen and Camilla are close, and Shaheen has an idol. No, but go on.
I, I was like thinking to myself out loud. That's my bad.
But targeting Camilla here is not a bad move at all. I think it's a good move for him if he could pull it
Yeah,
off.
definitely.
He just couldn't. And this is where we get to see Kyle show off his prowess some more and being able to be able to get Joe, this guy who's all about honor and integrity, to turn on David. Now, also, David doesn't help this by confronting Joe and being like, "You claim honor and integrity. You are not playing like that."
Which it's funny because the edit makes it seem like, oh, he is. David's like stupid, but judging by how the entire jury hated him, I'm inclined to believe David here, honestly.
It's a
Unless
thing.
that was just David poisoning the jury, but who knows?
I don't think so, because you gotta think. Chrissy comes into the jury not respecting this. David comes into the jury. He doesn't respect this. I don't think Mary respected their gameplay. I think most of the jury didn't respect their type of gameplay.
Which I don't blame them because no one on that season, other than some of the strong five, seemed like they were. And even obviously that was kind of proven false anyway, just by how the jury reacted and how they still didn't respect it. But like I know I don't like that type of gameplay, and I don't follow it. Like in the first org I ever played, one of the runner-ups played like that, and I ended up shitting on him and poisoned the jury to not vote him to win. So
And this leads on to when we get closer to the finale. I do want to talk about how the other players played around this. To where I think the way Shaheen and Kyle play around this is a strategy I personally respect and I think gets shat on way too much.
yeah,
But we lose David here, and I know you don't like David, but I do. I think sometimes
like I
he
said,
was a little
and
too
he's
over the top, but
yeah,
he's mostly fun, especially during this
he's
episode where they're just
he's good
dunking on
TV,
him.
but I don't like him, and I can't even vouch because technically he's the first Survivor player I've seen in person. I don't count it though because it was before he was on the show. I saw him at Marvel Universe live when he was a stunt double for that, but I just can't get behind him. He's nowhere near my cup of tea.
Moving on to episode, what is it, 10? What?
Would be yes.
Where God, oh God, this is definitely one of the worst episodes of the new era.
Yeah.
Like, so pre-challenge, nothing happens as per normal. Besides Mary being mad, David started out. Obviously. So, we get to the reward challenge, and oh my fucking God, this is the worst thing I think I've seen on Survivor. Where Jeff, um, is telling the players what the reward is. It's chicken and waffles with chocolate cake, I think. No, that was the Chinese reward. And the, then Jeff encourages them to start singing it like a chant, and they just chant chicken and waffles while Shaheen is just dancing. And I'm like, what the fuck am I watching?
It's giving that one Walmart ad.
Like, what the fuck is this?
Like uh, who was hired? That's what I want to know. Who was hired to think of this and thought it was okay?
Jeff. It was Jeff.
I wish it wasn't.
It's not even the
I
only
really
musical
wish.
segment we get in this episode.
Or period.
Yeah.
I love Jeff, but I hate Jeff.
I don't remember what this community challenge was. I don't think this is the one where I don't. We could have missed it, but there's one where Shaheen is like doing the tribal vocals during a challenge, and they mix it in with the music. But I believe this is the one. No, I think. Wait, I'm trying to think. I think the
I
merge
think
one
it
is.
was this episode.
It could be that, but there's also the one where Kyle's like, "Man, this is like the time where you would start doing your commercial to apply," and he does it with Kyle.
Oh yeah. Which kind of ironic in hindsight, but
So we get that moment. I don't even remember who wins immunity because it really does not matter.
it was Joe again. But yeah, it doesn't really matter.
To where this episode has a good bit to talk about, actually. Let's start with. So, Star's the target here. To where this is when the quote unquote revolution gets made. And this was so hyped up in the next time on Survivor, and it led to literally nothing. But there's a reason for
Which
that.
is just sad.
So, at a point, Mitch tells Star, play her shot in the dark. Guess what Star decides to do? Just guess.
I think she plays it.
No, she didn't play it. She, she didn't play it despite Mitch.
Which is
What?
so dumb.
Which I doubt it would work. I think with the way the producers set up the shot in the dark, only one per season works.
Honestly, I don't doubt that.
But we also get Mitch ruining the plan here. Where I believe this is the episode where Kyle gives the go ahead for Camilla to get rid of Joe, which is such a bad move for Kyle.
Yeah.
Now I can see his thinking and like, cool, I'm not the one getting rid of Joe, he won't be mad at me, but at the same time, Joe is such a great shield for Kyle. And we see him use Joe as a shield throughout the rest of the game, but like this is so bad. And so Camilla
Like now's your chance.
Camilla, Star, and Mary get together and like, cool. If we can get Mitch involved in this plan, and I believe they also think they have Kyle, to where they think they can tie the vote or have the majority. They could have tied the vote, but Mitch decides to not do it,
Yeah.
which my thing is, no one respects Mitch gameplay wise, but now he would have
I know
won.
I wouldn't.
He would have won either way, but I think he really needed this to even be able to make Final Tribal.
Yeah, but uh Mr. Inactive.
Because it's the round after this, he is constantly the secondary target.
If not the primary one.
Yeah.
At first, at least.
To where he really should have took this opportunity, but he doesn't. We also get Star's rap during this, which was like, what the fuck is going on?
It should have been on the Billboard Top 100.
Where we don't even get to see her perspective on Camilla, which was not good for her edit.
Yeah.
No, we get her
But that's
perspective.
just a running theme in the season. Bad edits.
Because her perspective was she always is making plans, but she never follows through.
Sounds like somebody.
Yeah, it sounds more like Mitch. But Star goes out here, and I think, what was it, 7-1 vote?
Sounds right to me.
And Star is one of the most under-edited players of the new era, undeservingly so. She is such a great character. It's
Yeah, I love
insane
her.
they did not give her more content. And even if it's because she wasn't part of the story, Star is a character where you need she's one where you should make an exception. She's just got such great energy, and even Jeff is like, at the after show, like, oh my god, I love your energy, Star. You're so fun. Yet they hide her on the show.
We love you, so we're not gonna give you attention. Basically how they handled that.
But gameplay wise, she is bad.
Yeah, like even if it was a okay social move and a nice thing to do on paper with giving Eva the idol, that was such a bad game move. That literally did her in so bad later on.
I think it would have worked better if she just already had better trust with Eva and could build off it, but she didn't.
Yeah.
And my biggest problem with Star is that she never leaves the bottom. She's someone who's like a Charity, who is lucky that her tribe never goes to tribal council, but unlike Charity, I think Star is actually likable and at least has some skill for the game.
Yeah.
Like, she almost was able to pull off a move this very round. Now, it would have been a tie, but if they're able to stay solid, they could have got someone out. But they didn't.
Yeah. And that's their fault.
Moving on to episode 11, where, again, pre-challenge, I don't think anything happens, I remember.
Yeah, I cannot think of literally like anything at all.
I believe this isn't the one Camilla wins. Who wins this
It is.
pre-challenge?
It is Camilla.
That's right, she wins this one and Final 5, that's right. So Camilla wins immunity. That's a fun segment right there, where we kind of get this story with Camilla that isn't focused on much, of her basically overcoming her insecurities in a way,
Yeah, and self doubt.
which is a good story. Nice story arc for her that we get a good conclusion to by the end of the season. But this part's very simple, but it does kind of have a fun lead up to it. Just with Mary not even trying.
Yeah.
To where she knows she's on the bottom and the target, yet she doesn't try to do anything about it. She just decides to be petty and like eat the last coconut and
Which I love, but objectively, don't do that.
it's fun to watch, but such bad gameplay.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's Mary for this whole season.
Yeah,
But
she's iconic though.
there's not much else to talk about, sadly, that I remember.
Yeah, other than the unexpected way that the challenge ended with it being very close. Because I remember Joe and Camilla finished at the same time, but it was like a literal second between them, and Joe would have won if one of his pieces wasn't upside down, so Camilla won it.
Oh yeah, because this piece was backwards. Because it was the arch puzzle that we see, like the team similar to team one we saw in 46, but normally individual.
Yeah.
And he had each side was color coded. Like the side facing Jeff for Joe had to be black, but he had one of his end pieces be white. To where I completely forgot the end pieces were part of it. And we get a Pearl Islands type moment here where he's like, "No, I'm wrong. Camilla, you're immune."
Not as dramatic as wait, everybody come back, but yeah, it was very Pearl Islands esque, and it's kind of funny to see him actually mess up.
He's got dementia. But we lose Mary here, where again she's so under edited this
Yeah,
season
she's
at
a
the
great
level.
character. Even my mom liked her.
My mom adored her.
Yeah.
To where she is a great character, but a terrible player this season.
Yeah.
She has these out of the box strategies that I don't think are bad. It's just she was never able to get herself in a position where she was truly safe. Now, at least she was part of the strong alliance. I can give her that. She was safe
Yeah,
during the swap,
that
and
was a good call on her part, but
the fact that she was able to get in there over Camilla, I think is definitely a pro to her game. But really, her downfall comes less from her and more from David just destroying the game and her not being part of the core of that alliance.
and uh I also love the episode title being coconut etiquette because it reminded me
A
of banana
banana
etiquette.
etiquette.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of.
It was so funny to see that.
We move on to episode 12. Or another interesting one, vote off wise. If this is just Shaheen boot, right?
Yes.
Yeah, another interesting one. For lead up to tribal at least. Where this is where the season picks back up for me. This penultimate episode and the finale. They're
Oh
not,
yeah, same.
they're not great, but it's better than before. And
Yeah, better than
it's
what it was.
this is truly when you see how the season is structured, what this season is. Like we have a lot to talk about here, actually.
Quite a bit.
So I somehow don't remember what happens pre-reward challenge. Do you?
Free reward challenge. Honestly, no. Cannot lie. I did not.
So we get to the reward challenge where it's the same one in 45 where Katera was scared to go in the water. Where it goes on until they're all on the last handle and they have to straighten out their legs. I'm shocked
Kind of impressive.
they let them even use their feet as friction in the first place. Actually, seeing how 45 went with them liking shorter
Yes, same.
challenges. But so Shaheen claims he was being a Penner type during this, and that Penner was a big inspiration for him coming into the season. And this is where you can kind of see it.
Yeah, he was giving Penner this season.
His banter with Jeff here is honestly great. Him talking about
Yeah.
his ganglion cyst.
Oh, please, Jeff.
And people start dropping one by one. I'll also mention this. When Eva drops, it seems like Joe voluntarily dropped. It didn't seem like he just um couldn't do it anymore. It seems more like he did it voluntarily because Eva dropped.
Yeah, no, because I was thinking the same thing, because there's like no way they dropped at the same time. I just don't believe that.
Yeah, it was like a second apart. But we get a final showdown of Kyle versus Shaheen, where Shaheen wins reward. We get the first Shaheen win and the only one
You're the
in the
only one,
season.
and honestly, that we'll probably ever see because I don't know when it'll be that he comes back, if ever. So,
To where this is the Letters from Loved Ones reward, where they also get to eat food and all that. I don't care about that, but we get the letters from home. And first choice he makes was, I think his first choice was Joe, where he's like, this dude talks about his family all the time. I gotta pick Joe. Fair enough. His second pick, he's like, this dude's about to get married. I'm picking Kyle.
and at that point, I was like, ooh.
But
I was honestly not surprised, but also not expecting those picks at the same time.
so we get to the award where the food part doesn't matter at all. Who cares? We get to the letters from home, where this is, I think, the scene that really made me realize what the season is. We first, I'm trying to think. We first get to see Joe reading the letter from his daughter, I believe it is, or son,
I think it was, yeah, I think it was his son.
to where he just was so happy to hear his son tell me he's proud of him, and it's a heartwarming moment. We get Kyle get his letter, and um get trying to remember who sent him his letter.
Kyle's was from his fiance, I think.
Well,
That or his dad. Or no, no, not his dad. That sorry, not his dad.
yeah, his dad passed.
Yeah, I think it was his fiance then.
Well, we somehow get less focus on that than anything. To I get to Shaheen's letter. Shaheen's letter is from his dad. For the first time, he hears his dad tell him he's proud of
Aww.
him. And this is a moment that's like, oh wow. I think this is one of the heaviest letters from home segments we've had in New Era to me.
For sure.
Because there's more to it. So he talks about how he's never heard his dad say this to him, never heard him say "I love you" or anything like that, which is sadly a reality for many people around the world. It's something that sucks on every level, and I wish wasn't that way. But
Yeah.
and then we get to Kyle and Joe just quietly breaking down because both of their fathers passed. But along with that, we get maybe the most important part of this. Joe reveals how his sister had passed away and he feels responsible for it. He has talked more about it in confessional where he's like, I'm the big brother. My job as the big brother is to protect my little sister. No matter what we go through, any arguments we go through, and I didn't get to do that. We had fought that day, the night before, and didn't even say I love you to each other. Then she passed from domestic violence that next day.
Yeah. Even I remember, I think I almost cried during that scene.
Oh,
And I
same.
think I actually heard, it was either during that or when Joe was talking to his sister later that episode, but I remember, I think I heard after the episode aired that because of that, I think there's a law in California now named off of her that's like if any woman's like suspiciously dies, their partner is always the first to be accused until proven innocent, I think.
But this really weighs in on the episode more to where we don't get to hear about more until later, but we can talk about it now. We get the segment you were just talking about where he's like, I want closure. I've never been able to directly speak to her myself. And he just goes out on the beach and basically prays and is apologizing to her for what happened.
I'm trying not to laugh because as I was sitting here, I just broke something.
And I think this really recontextualizes Joe's run on this season, seeing the trauma he's been through. And I think a big reason why he feels so protective of Eva and why he's so
Yeah.
family oriented.
It gives us quite a bit of insight on how he thinks and how he is as a person, and it was definitely like obviously I don't. I'm not even like oh I wanted him to lose because I don't like him. I love him. Like he's a great person, but like it was fun to see more reason as to why he's the way he is.
I think it's the deepest personal content we've ever gotten on Survivor from somebody.
At least in a while, yeah.
But also in this reward, we have a kind of bad move from Shaheen to where Shaheen somehow still trusts Kyle, despite the fact Kyle and Camille has been targeting him the whole merge for no reason.
Yeah.
Is basically just thinking out loud to Kyle and it's like, what if we just get Joe out here? Now he never. It seemed like he didn't truly intend on it. He was just thinking about it and was just trying to kind of have Kyle be like how Kyle and Camilla were to each other. No, it doesn't work out. To where Kyle's like, well, I'm gonna use this against Shaheen. So we get an immunity challenge. I think Joe wins this immunity challenge. Yes, because this is his fourth win.
Yeah.
And Jeff is like, if you win the next one, you'll be part of an elite group of challenge competitors. And it's like, I don't care.
Yeah, we know this. We know this already, Jeff. Maybe if you're like a grandma on Facebook, you wouldn't because you forget last season happened, but
Which
sure.
Rachel's not even part of the group he's talking. Joe's currently in the same tier as Rachel, but Rachel's not in like
Yeah.
top tier.
Yeah.
I looked this up after the episode, or after the finale, I think, actually, because I was interested in seeing. So, Joe wins immunity. Joe plan was never going through anyway. Not Kyle. Shaheen goes back to wanting Mitch out, the better move for him anyway. And by this point, Shaheen knows. He gets to the end and wins. And supposedly Shaheen was like the biggest jury threat left in the game.
Which I can see, but also doubt at the same time. But I wouldn't know. I'm not the jury. I was not on that season.
So
Would it have been cool to have been? Yes, but I'm not.
we get to see another great plan from Kyle and Camilla, to where what they decide to do is that they decide to throw Shaheen under the bus by telling Joe about this and telling Joe Shaheen as an idol, despite them saying that lie all of the merge for no reason. Again.
Yeah.
To where Joe's like, okay, let me think about this. To where, compared to the episode before, where Joe's shown as panicky and very paranoid, this episode, he's shown very logical. And he decides to talk to Shaheen to figure out. Now, the way he talks to Shaheen here is weird because it's direct, but it's not at the same time.
Yeah.
But Shaheen can tell Joe's mad about something. Shaheen doesn't give, to Joe's mind, lies because Joe trusted Kyle more than Shaheen. And Shaheen's like, yo, what the fuck? Are you okay? Are you mad at me or something? Like, do we need to talk? And he's like, no, it's good, it's good, it's good.
Okay.
And we get this interesting segment at Charbel where, do you want to narrate this segment, actually?
Like as to the editing choices they made.
Yeah, I think, and I want to give my input in it on after you say it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is probably one of the most main character type edits they've ever made. But we get to tribal, and Jeff goes through his normal questions, and he starts talking to Kyle. And suddenly, we zoom in on Joe's face, and basically everything goes foggy. The audio gets muffled. It just basically zooms in on Kyle's lips moving, but we can barely hear what he's saying. And then once Kyle's done talking, it snaps back into reality. And then a few minutes later, the same thing happens, but with Shaheen. So you can tell Joe's trying to figure out who's lying to him. But it's just so interesting to me because they've never made any one specific person seem this important. And like I like it. I love how they're like branching out with editing like flashiness more and more and being creative with it as the seasons go on. Example, 46 finale with them using the Flint sounds as part of the audio.
That and like
But
early
it's
in the
just
season during the Andy Griffith alliance being
yeah,
set
and
up.
that. But it's just so unique to me, just how they're treating Joe as like basically the only one in this episode that's important.
And it goes back to what this season is. It's a Joe show.
Yeah, very much.
And I think this is meant to prop Joe up in a way, still, despite him losing the next episode.
Definitely. Honestly, like if you're a more hardcore fan like you and I, like you can sniff out that Joe's not winning pretty easily. But like if you're a casual fan, he's definitely a decoy winner.
I sniffed it out from the pre-merge that he wasn't winning from like the
Yeah.
first episode.
I sniffed it out toward like the middle of the merge.
It's just with Joe, his edit's so over the top in a place where it doesn't need to be. Unlike a Marianne, where I think that's an example people would like to give about over top winner edits. Where with
Yeah.
Marianne, she's someone you cannot just not show because she's the winner. She's such a massive character in herself to where you always have to show Marianne whether she's winning or not.
Yeah, definitely. Like even if she could have been a pre-merge character and she would have still probably gotten a crap ton of screen time.
But Shaheen goes out here and kind of does a Penner type thing by I think he's doing the tribal singing as he's walking out.
I think so. Wasn't it him that he was like, I'm gonna be mad if you don't hug me? I think that was him, right? Or
It
was that David?
was.
Yeah, that was
It
him.
was Shaheen. It was
Like
so
that made me
weird.
laugh.
But we lose Shaheen, who I loved on this season personally. Now, I think that's kind of biased to where he is just the type of guy I would hang out with. And he reminds me of
Yeah,
myself in a way.
he's a nice person and I do like him. I just he's not the type of survivor player I necessarily like lean toward, and that's just my preference. Like I didn't hate him, but I didn't love him. He wasn't my favorite that season.
And I think he really pulls off the Natalie White, Sophie Clark strategy here very well. To where if he got to the end, he for sure wins. I do think he wins that jury vote. For sure,
I
against Joe and
agree.
Eva. To where if it was not for Kyle and Camilla just tricking Joe and Eva here, I think Shaheen makes the end.
Yeah, he was definitely put in a place where he couldn't really do anything because there was pretty much no convincing Joe, and that was entirely just dependent on whether Joe could sniff out Kyle's bluff or not, and he ended up taking it, which granted Kyle the win there.
For sure. But the edit of Shaheen's so weird. They edit him like almost like an Owen figure.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't understand why. And a big thing to mention with Shaheen too is that, in case you don't know this, he was the alternate for Survivor 46. To where
Yeah, and I
after
wonder how he would have done on the season.
I have no idea,
Because,
because
like, we
at the
know that Rachel was supposed to be on 46 and then won 47 instead, so I almost wonder what Shaheen would have done on his original season.
I mean I wonder if he'd be able to keep up with like such a chaotic game like that.
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Because Shaheen's a player where I really have to see him in another season with a different cast that plays different to truly judge him as a player outside of
Oh
just
yeah,
his
for
game.
sure.
Like Kyle's someone where I feel like I can judge him as a player pretty well from this season. Same
Yeah,
with like
he's
a
definitely
Joe
the
and
type of
Eva.
player that does well in most seasons.
So we move on to our finale. Not a bad finale either. Like I
Yeah, this finale made me actually enjoy the season in retrospect.
to where we start the final five. Obviously, we luckily don't do the moving the camp a new camp anymore, which is dumb. But we go back to the early new era ways and have an advantage for no reason.
And it's basically
Why
pointless too.
it is so pre-challenge. I
Especially
don't.
speaking, especially speaking how Camilla does in the challenge.
Oh, I mean that's also pointless, but I don't remember anything pre-challenge really. Sadly, besides that,
Yeah, I don't either.
that's a lot of what this has been. But we get to the challenge where Camilla wins immunity again. Where we
In a crazy comeback.
oh yeah, and we get almost a culmination of her story arc. We don't truly get that culmination until Final Four Fire Making. But where she's going back to talk about how I just listened to the good voice in my head, ignored the bad, like just still on this arc of doubt of self doubt, which is cool. But I will say this next segment's kind of bad, even though it's cool how they portray it, kinda to where it's so clear Mitch is going home. They don't hide it, not even from him. They decide to tell Mitch himself, "You're going home. You're too much of a threat." And Mitch
Which I
doesn't.
don't know if I see that much, but go
I,
off.
I mean, I think if he gets to the end against Joe and Eva, he wins. But I'm pretty sure that's everybody by the time of final like 7 probably,
Yeah.
maybe in final 8. Um, yeah, he does nothing about this. Now
Yeah, he doesn't
also,
even try and make a move, but
now so
that's also
also
just kind of Mitch.
But also, granted, he's being told that he's going home. Where with Rachel
Yeah.
last season, it's different because she had an idol she could play.
Yeah.
And Mitch goes out here. And Mitch is a interesting figure for me here. I don't think he's a bad character.
I just wish we got more of him. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah. One thing I wish I we both forgot to mention is that during the swap, him and Cedric actually bond over the fact Cedric has stutter growing up,
Yeah.
and that bond goes nowhere.
Yeah, I think that's what I think that was literally the only scene we saw of that.
But like his story, I'm glad his story got to be told, and he got to be able to do what he did.
And he
How it,
became a meme in the community because of the gifts.
yeah. Also, the fact he was actually pretty good at challenges.
Yeah, which was a little surprising to me. I don't know why.
But gameplay wise, he is so bad.
Gameplay wise, he was like he'd probably be at the bottom if it weren't for both longevity and mistakes made by some of the earlier players.
Because, early Siva, he is the second voted out of that tribe. Now, not the first, but the second. On his
Yeah.
swap tribe, he was safe no matter what, but he wasn't even included in the vote. Now, granted, that vote was so last second, it's hard to really truly blame him for that.
Yeah, that wasn't his fault.
And then at the merge, he just isn't with the majority at all and just skating by. Lucky to be able to get to Final Five, where others should make more mistakes than him. Like, he's only at 9 on my power rankings because of his longevity.
Because if he was an earlier boot, he's like probably bottom 4, lower.
He is probably above Charity. Like, right above Charity at 17.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me at all.
Let's move on to Final Four, where We returned with Motion for the 50 billionth time. Just go back to endurance challenges, please, man.
Yeah, I want hands on a hard idol again.
Same. But we shockingly everyone's pretty good for a good bit of this challenge until was it the fifth ball? I think
I think it was the fourth ball, but it might be the fifth.
it was one to two where they actually were doing very well in this, and I was shocked. But the first person to drop out is Eva. We have, I believe, next was Camilla. Then next was Joe drop out where Kyle wins final immunity in a spot where I discredit him here because I think he really needed final immunity.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because uh, Camilla wins. I think it's I think it's Joe against Kyle. I almost said Josh. Who the fuck is Josh? But yeah,
And if Joe or Eva won, he would be in fire against Camilla, which we see Camilla is like one of the worst fire makers in Survivor history.
yeah. So whoever went against Camilla there would have probably been fine, but
But during this segment, once again, we get another great moment for Joe for no reason. But another emotional moment for me because this felt it's a redo of the moment from the swap, except more private in a way, especially with the added complexity from Kyle in this, where he as soon as they get back to camp, Kyle's like, "I made a deal with Joe that he's coming to final two with me. Eva, Camilla, you two are going in the fire." To where we see Eva practicing. She's struggling. She is struggling very hard and starts just breaking down to where they can hear it from camp. And Kyle is like just feeling guilty. Very understandably guilty. And like, should I do this to her? Joe goes to help her and is like, I can do it instead. And she's like, no, no, no. I want to be able to do this. Can you just help tutor me on this? It's another heartwarming scene from the season.
yeah, I almost cried again.
Oh yeah, this was probably one of the most powerful things in the season for me, especially just again seeing Kyle's guilt from putting Eva in this position, and I think that's one thing that, in retrospect, makes this season so interesting to me, and why probably of all seasons I was like, let's do a podcast, is because of the emotional journey this season can be for everyone on it and studying that, because it's just study of emotions on Survivor more than
Yeah.
ever. To where, luckily, Eva's eventually able to finally get it. We cut to Camilla. Camilla's struggling. Now we get to see her be like, "No, I can do this." I don't even remember if she does get a fire. I think she got a fire started while practicing. And then we get to the fire making challenge.
I was honestly kind of expecting it to possibly go to matches, just like Skylands, in a way.
No, Eva's actually able to do pretty good for most of it. Where, just like Teeny last season, she gets screwed over by wind, which just do
That
what you
still pisses me off.
if we're going to keep fire making, just do what you did on Edge of Extinction. And I agree the jury should see them because it informs the jury and the jury votes. But have it be somewhere where it's walled off and the wind cannot affect it.
Yeah.
Because
It's
Teeny
like they want the wind to affect it. Teeny was so screwed there.
Teeny was never winning the season, but Teeny could have been in third place last season
Yeah.
if.
Yeah, I just very much didn't want Sam in that final three.
So Camilla gets nothing this whole time.
She gets a spark, but it lasts for like 5 seconds.
And her commentary through this is very funny. I can't lie. It is like the type of thing I would do when I'm doing something.
Yes, same.
But Eva ends up winning fire making to where Jeff does his thing he does every time. So where once they sit down, he immediately talks to Eva and is like, "We just saw you go through an emotional journey during this," and I don't remember what she says. I don't remember.
I don't, yeah, that's a. I don't remember either. I'm not gonna lie.
But we get to Camilla where this just culminates her story arc of the season, overcoming her self doubt, being like, because Jeff was like, "I saw you there, and you were still able to be positive that whole time, despite the fact you had nothing." And she's like, "Yeah,
And
I
I'm,
just listened to my good voice in my head."
which I think is something we all need to do. We need to learn something from Camilla.
I will say this is terrible advice for people who have chronic anxiety like me. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, sadly same though.
So Camilla goes out, and um, Camilla was such an interesting figure on this season. I think she's a good character. Her biting confessions towards David at the end of his run are amazing,
Yeah, I agree.
and even pre-merge she was very fun. Constantly getting her perspective and just the way she is. She's like
I
Lydia if
want her
Lydia
back.
got farther and was a better player.
Yeah, I want her back. Hopefully she's on 50, but I feel like we're getting Joe instead.
It's rumored that there's 3 people from 48.
Yeah, I'm hearing that it's Kyle, Joe, and Camilla, but I don't know how likely Kyle is, and I feel like they want Joe over Camilla.
And gameplay wise, I think she didn't. She played pretty good. Now the problem is she was always in the shadow of Kyle, and constantly had to rely on Kyle. Where it felt like Kyle was able to play without Camilla, but if Camilla didn't
Oh
have
yeah, for sure.
Kyle, I don't know if she makes it as far as she does. But she did have some pretty good win equity. I wonder if she could beat Kyle at the end. I'm not
That
sure.
honestly is a good question. That is a good what if, honestly. If the final three was like, let's say Joe, Camilla, Kyle, who wins that?
And we get to our final three, where we get these ridiculous shots. Where my mom was like, "What the hell are they doing?" Like they could have done this differently, but we still have jury speak segment, which I'm always glad for. I like being able to hear the jury's perspective before final tribal. It's something I personally
Same here.
love. Um, I don't even know if there's anything too notable about this jury segment. Mary talked about how Eva overcame so many challenges to where it shows Mary's vote, and I don't remember what else was said here. I think people were talking about how they want Joe to own up to his game, and they would vote for him.
Yeah, and then I remember Chrissy digging into Joe and Eva for not separating their game from one another because they made she made the point that or like even made the point that like me and Joe played like as one player, and then Chrissy was like, well the thing is you're not playing together. You're when it comes to Final Tribal you're individual, so separate your game from one another, which I loved to see. Not gonna lie.
So we get final tribal, and Joe gets no focus in this final tribal. Weirdly, I feel like we get more
Yeah.
focus on Eva and Kyle. Where I don't think anyone here has a bad performance. Just I
I feel
think
like everyone had a pretty good performance. It's just obviously the jury had very noticeable disdain for Joe.
where I'm trying to remember the questions besides Chrissy just digging into them. So what was the first question? Because it was from Cedric, I think.
Ah, I know it wasn't the question of like what's a move that you strategically made, but like I I would probably have to check because I honestly don't remember what the first question was from Cedric.
Do you mind checking? Cause
Yeah, let me see. I feel like it was like, what is your uh greatest weakness?
I think
I
it
feel
was
like it was
something like
that.
that.
Let me go to the 48 finale.
But I can mention go ahead
The
and mention David's question of how did your physical game affect your game, which was such a nothing question.
It's a
Also,
nothing question, but I will say for this final three in specific, it actually kind of makes sense.
yeah, but also the lead up. So the whole time he was doing, he was. It looked like he was trying to model for a cover or something. He looked like Patrick Bateman for all of the season when he was on the jury, and then that leads up to literally nothing at Final Tribal. I expected him
Yeah.
to be bitter, which supposedly he is bitter at Joe postseason.
Okay, Cedric asked. Yeah, it was the weaknesses thing. He said each of us came in with one or several
What did you just say?
weaknesses, and then he said, what was that weakness that you played this game with?
And I don't remember Joe's answer, but I remember Eva and Kyle's answer, and I don't. I think both of them are pretty good answers.
Yeah.
Kyle mentioning how he came in overconfident, and I don't think this is when he revealed about his past and that he was a lawyer.
That might have. I think that was the next question.
Because Eva talked about her autism and was like, I don't know if I truly consider this a weakness. I found a way to play around it though.
Yeah, which was probably the best way she could have said that.
I'll also say we have this moment pre-final tribal where Eva reveals that she's I can't remember what specifically she is. She's a doctor in some like I believe health research in some kind. And Kyle reveals he's a lawyer and just the face Joe has to that. He's
And
like,
Joe's
what
just
the
like, I'm a
hell?
dumbass firefighter.
So yeah, if you could read off all the questions, because I would actually love to talk about those in particular.
Wish there was a transcript for this finale, because I skipping through this is gonna be annoying. Let me see. Okay,
Hey, Survivor
Cedric.
Wiki, put the questions on the pages.
I agree. And the next question was from that's uh let me the next question was from Mitch and he asked let me hear this.
Hold on, I'll be right back. Give me like a minute. I gotta pee.
Alright.
Obviously, we'll cut this out.
Yeah. There's gonna be a few things probably that we cut out.
I have returned.
Okay. Yeah, Mitch's question was a lot of the votes this season were based on relationships, and how did you leverage these relationships for your own game?
I'm trying to remember what. I think Eva mainly mentioned Joe during this section, because obviously,
Yeah.
because yeah, that's when Chrissy is like, cool, but only one person can win this game.
Yeah.
And I think Kyle mentioned his relationship with Joe and Camilla. I don't remember what else he mentioned. And then Joe, I don't remember what he said.
Yeah. Shaheen did compliment Eva for insulating herself in the alliance, but obviously didn't get his vote.
Oh yeah, because Shaheen's the one who like, after Eva during the last question talked about her autism, he was like, it's super impressive the way you were able to insulate yourself with everybody, even with that disadvantage coming your way.
Yeah, which is it is impressive. So, and then you were right. Chrissy did uh, tell them to separate themselves.
I don't think this is when they mentioned the jobs. I don't remember when in Final Tribal they do.
Oh wait. Oh yeah. Okay. It was during Star's question. Star asked, "Tell me something that will wow me that I don't know about you all."
Yeah, so they mention their jobs, and Kyle mentions something we didn't mention earlier in it, but a big reason why him and Joe's relationship is as good as it was is because Kyle opened up to Joe, seeing that Joe's type person. When you open up to him, he will always trust you more, to where he's able to explain something that is very clearly based on racial bias. Yet the show seems to cut around that part, which is weird.
Yeah.
To where talks about how for a little bit in, I believe in college, he said that him and his friends would go around doing little tiny crimes, and he would be thrown in jail for like a week or so. And it's kind of why he became so overconfident, while his friends would never get in trouble. They would always uh, be let off scot free. And I think he talks about how that inspired him to become a lawyer.
Yeah. I think he said he was going to become a lawyer to help people kind of like him.
And yeah, even mentions her being a doctor of some kind.
Yeah. The PhD student or whatever.
Well, she was a student, then graduated with a PhD, and now works in some type of science. Which I also question if that diminished her jury chances, with the fact that like she was someone who probably makes good money.
Yeah. And also watching this back, Eva also revealed her uh, tribal exit advantage.
Oh yeah, because they talk about that and how Shaheen had caught Eva, but Joe wasn't worried about it.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that. That's why she get is. I think that's when she gets offered the not safety without power, the knowledge's power advantage, and doesn't take it because she doesn't need it.
Yeah.
Which my question is, why was production trying to bring back the knowledge's power?
Yeah, I don't know what their hyperfixation is with knowledge is power because it's never worked, and in my opinion, I don't like it.
I just don't think it can work.
It's so hard to use and it's so easy to work around. Because you
Also,
either have to keep it completely secret or you have to hope that the person is stupid enough to not give it to someone else.
also going back to that episode, actually, fuck, I was about to just say something. I was just about to say something, and I forgot. Oh yeah, so I believe that was the one she found in the chips at the reward after she won immunity during the Mega Challenge. And that was clearly
Yeah.
intended for the immunity winner the whole time. Yet apparently people believe it was rigged for Eva for some reason. When that makes no
Yeah.
sense at all.
She just happened to be in the right area at the right time, pretty much.
That and again, I believe it was always meant for the immunity winner to get. They probably were like, hey, can you sit here, you sit here? To where maybe a production member could have pointed it out, making sure the immunity winner is the one who found the advantage. Because they did specifically say, congratulations on your. This is a reward for your efforts in the challenge.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that part. Even then though, it's just so like minor. I don't see how that'd be rigging.
Plus, also she has all the advantages in the game at that point. So why would they want her get? Wouldn't they want the minority to be getting the knowledge is power, if anything?
Yeah.
Because yeah, she gets to safety without power at the journey where she has to stack. Wait, hold on, I'm trying to remember. No, knowledge is power is offered when she has to stack the tiles up at that journey early in the merge, to where people also claim that's rigging because she kicked it over before the timer was done. But it was very clear she did not want to go farther up, so kind of pointless.
Yeah.
What did Chrissy ask? I don't remember. I mean, just go through all the questions, honestly.
Oh, next was Mary's question. I think. Yeah, the Mary's question was, what do you think the jury's perception of you is, and are we wrong? Which I love that question.
I think that's a great question. Why do I not remember the responses to it?
Yeah, I don't either. I'm gonna listen back to these. Time to cut stuff out. Okay, yeah. Um, yeah, Eva's response was, I know you guys believe that me and Joe, or I was just Joe's plus one, but I had more say in it than you thought. We kind of made moves as one, and then and then David got mad at her.
What was Kyle's response, I
Oh,
wonder?
ooh, yeah. And then when David got mad at her, he said, "I want proof that what you're saying isn't a lie." She tried to bring up the Shaheen vote, which then Kyle bounced off of. Once Camilla was like, "Kyle, can I get your point of view on this?" And then obviously that's when Kyle gave his answer about what actually happened,
Oh yeah, because we get like a cut to Camilla where she's smiling and
like
Kyle looks back.
smirking. Yeah,
Yeah, then Kyle looks back and it's kind of giving a look of, you know what to do.
yeah. And this is when Camilla's like, "I got you."
And then yeah, Kyle gets to undercut Eva.
Yeah. Seeing Kyle's point of view on that, like him explain his side of the story was so badass to me.
Kind of reminds me of the Marianne moment when she reveals her idol and then is able to reveal how she did the Omer vote.
Yeah, same.
Which
The
is,
second he dropped that, I knew he was winning.
I mean, By the time I watched the finale, I had been spoiled, so I knew.
Fair enough.
What jury members does that leave? Chrissy. We already talked about David's question.
Chrissy, Shaheen, and I think that's it.
Because Camilla didn't get a question on the show, at least.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even know if Shaheen got one.
I think he might have. Then again,
I
with
know he spoke a lot, but
but also with Shaheen, one
yeah.
thing that's really funny to mention is that while he was on the jury the whole time, Final Tribal and regular tribals, he was constantly playing with something in his hands.
Yeah, which I don't blame him because I'd be doing the same thing, but
I just found that very funny.
yeah. Oh yeah, and then David asked, challenges that you won, how did they help your game and how'd you use the necklace to your advantage? And then obviously Joe was like, oh, I won 4 immunity challenges. Not many people can say that. Kyle was like, I won the last immunity challenge that secured my fate. And I honestly don't remember what Eva said, if she even had a response.
Yeah. And then Kyle wins in it. What was it? 5-2 to 1,
Yeah,
right?
it was uh 5 to 2 to 1. Yeah, that sounds right. Let's double check just to be safe.
I know Cedric voted Joe. Mary
Yeah, five to
voted
two to one.
Eva. Then who was the other Mary? The other Eva vote?
Star voted Eva too.
So at least that storyline kind of culminated in Star voting for Eva to win,
Yeah,
and then obviously everyone else voted for Kyle, and we get such a nothing after show like normal.
yeah. The after show was so boring this season.
Like it was at least kind of interesting to hear Jeff talk about Star, how much he loves Star, despite her being never being on the show. Uh, but besides that, I don't remember anything else from it. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and the fact they brought David chocolate milk.
And then he was like, "This is how you drink it." And oh my god, I like actually rolled my eyes, and he was like, "This is the masculine way, and this is the feminine way to drink it." I was like, "It's milk.
Like,
Drink
shut
it how
the
you want."
fuck up.
Yeah, I was literally like, "Shut up."
And that's Survivor 48. The premiere for 49 didn't give us much besides a guy named Rizzo,
Who plays orcs?
which is still an insane name to me.
Yeah, and then it's like Riz God or some dumb shit. I'm good.
No, the meme is that they call him Riz God, but uh, they, but his actual name's Rizzo. I don't know what his. I'm assuming that's a synonym he goes by.
I hope so, because if his actual name's Rizzo, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry.
Which like go by whatever the hell you want. I don't care. Tini itself is a weird name, but go by whatever the hell you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not one to talk. I go by Ellie. So um, yeah, that's Survivor 48. Overall opinion for me, one of the worst New Era seasons. Definitely bottom 20 of the whole show.
Yeah.
I think the season does have some high highs, but some low lows. Where, compared to 44 at least, 44 was consistently boring to
Yeah.
me. Where I know at the time of 45 podcast, you were very high on 44.
Yeah.
I don't know if you still are now, but
I'd probably have to rewatch it.
like it was a season where I wasn't even interested in watching it live.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And for me, or you go, sorry.
no, you go ahead because I was about to do outro stuff.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say for me, 48, like it had pretty damn good content, especially in camp life for most of it. It was just the boot order and the alliances. And that's mostly in thanks to the editing. I'm sure if the editing was true to how it actually panned out, maybe I would have liked it more. But the editing we currently have made me not like the season that much, and it's definitely my second least favorite New Era season, at least at the moment.
I think
Maybe third least.
that is the biggest criticism to me is the editing. To where you can make a season that has a steamroll like this enjoyable, to where technically last season was that. Yet it was more
Yeah.
entertaining than this.
Yeah, last season Rachel swept the game, and I was actively rooting for her and enjoying the season anyway because they actually edited it well.
I just feel like they didn't let the good characters shine, and like it's not like I dislike Joe and Eva or anything. I don't think Eva's great character wise, but I do like the arc of Joe this season. Us being able to, especially again in that penultimate episode, being able to learn more about his backstory and just get this very open content about him. But at the same time, this season just almost feels like a mess in the editing room post merge. It feels like two
Yeah, for
different
sure.
teams edited it, really.
And they didn't look at each other's work.
But that's it for us talking about Survivor 48. This podcast, after this is posted, we'll be posting the player rankings. After that will be the character rankings, where player rankings will probably just be me. Uh, Character rankings, me and Hyrule may do together. It's up to him. Uh, and stay tuned since we knew we were gonna try to talk about other stuff as well. Big Brother starts premiering soon,
I'm
where
excited for that.
we might do a cast reveal, cast reaction for Big Brother. Gonna be doing a cast reaction for Survivor 50 when the official cast comes out. Talk about our opinions on them, how they'll do, all that fun stuff. And yeah, since not much else coming out, that'll be all we can talk about right now. I don't. I believe Dondi's always early in the year, if I remember correctly, right? I believe it's around the same time as Traders, right?
Around then, yeah, it's like February, March.
And then House of Villains. I don't even know if they're doing a season this year. And neither of us watched the challenge, from my knowledge. I think Hyrule watches Amazing Race, so if he wants to do videos on that, he gladly can.
I do watch it, so
But I may see if we could do reviews on some older seasons. Maybe go in order and talk about all the seasons and how they develop. Do some reviews and stuff like that on them. But besides that, yeah, that's all for now. And thank you for joining us today in the cabin.